Today's episode of Doc and Jock is brought to you by Score, a new mobile app coming soon. Score is an interactive game that lets users win deals at bars and restaurants based on what's going on in live sporting events. Find new places to watch the game and save money on your bill at the same time by taking advantage of Score's unique interactive specials that give you additional stakes in the action. A Score special can be anything a location wants it to be, from 10% off an item if a team scores a touchdown to a free round of drinks if a quarterback throws for 400 yards. Any stat can be turned into a game. Pick the deals you want to win, watch the games you want to watch, and score deals in real time. The app will update when your team or players record relevant stats. When the conditions of your deal are met, coupons are sent to your device to show your server or bartender. It's that easy. Score is coming to the App Store and Google Play soon. For more information, check them out on the web at score-app.io and follow them on Twitter and Instagram at ScoreDeals. Score, watch games, score deals.
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Is there a sports podcast in Detroit that people are talking about?
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 212. Thank you for downloading. We greatly appreciate it. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Early on in this podcast, he's going to be on the hot seat because we had a fantasy draft over this last weekend. I was not able to take part in the fantasy draft because I was out of town with the missus, but it looks like from what we talked about in the pre-show meeting, it looked like it was a shit show.
Yeah, it turned into that. And look, this was probably the best draft that we've had, and I believe we've been doing this now for 7 seasons. This was probably the best one. It was done in a timely fashion. It was organized pretty well, but a few things happened. So like every year with the draft, we sit there, we open it up for rule changes, any discussions that people want to have, anything that they want changed. We sit there, we kind of throw it all out on the table. This year, one of the rule changes was instead of going by ESPN's top 200 sheet, all the way through for your draft. Basically, it takes all the power out of my hands. I don't have to worry about anything. If you're not there, basically you're on auto draft. You're going next player that's highest ranked available. Once all the players for a certain position get filled up, we move on to the next position for you. So if we'll say, I don't know, wide receiver 26, Tyreek Hill, you have 5 wide receivers already, and he's the next player available. He's the highest rated. What we'd end up doing is we'd go to Mike Gillislee because he's a running back and you don't have 5 running backs yet. So that got scrapped, which makes my life even more difficult than it already is trying to control this band of merry retards that we have for our fantasy football draft. So what happened was my stepdad proposed a rule change because he got upset because what ends up happening is we'll say you weren't there this year. So what happens is that there tends to be a run where you're just drafting wide receiver after wide receiver after wide receiver. So now you're loaded up on wide receivers. Nobody else has any credible wide receivers. So he wanted to try to avoid that this year. Basically what he said was, hey, let's try to do it this way. You sit there and what happens is you draft the best player available, but it doesn't always have to go wide receiver. It can go wide receiver, running back, it can go quarterback. You try to sit there and you try to put a complete team together for that person. And I'm like, I think I was the only one who voted against it because I knew what it meant for me. I was like, okay, fine. Mind you, I'm drafting for myself. I'm drafting for you. I'm drafting for Andrea. I'm drafting for my buddy Jeff, who wasn't there. And I was drafting for Tom Jr. So I'm drafting 5 teams on top of my own and making sure I can run the entire league.
This is bad.
You want to talk about wanting to eat a bullet. Okay, I wanted to shoot myself in the head. So he makes that rule change, which totally screws me. It's cool for everybody else. Oh, on top of all that, I've got to run the draft board too. So I've got to put stickers up. In the process of going through the draft, we get into 3 rounds of the draft. We have somebody have a complete meltdown, and it wasn't me this year. Have somebody have a complete meltdown. Pat had a complete meltdown. He sat there, decided he wanted to draft 12, which was stupid because he's an idiot and didn't show up prepared in the first place. Sat there, threw a tantrum, cussed a whole bunch of people out, and basically was like, I'm going to put the stickers up. You guys can auto-draft my team, which then means I have to auto-draft his team. So now I'm drafting 6 teams, okay?
So he showed up there and then left?
He showed up there. He stayed. He drafted the first 3 rounds. And by draft the first 3 rounds, I mean he threw an entire fit the entire time he did it, sat there and complained about it, and made selections, and then was like, I'm done. You guys do it. So basically he threw his team to me because nobody else is picking up his team and drafting for him. So now I'm drafting 6 teams. Six.
Okay, so what's going on now is you're on trial because when it happened, I was thankful that you did it. It was unfortunate because the way it went down was Andrea and I expected that the draft was going to happen Labor Day weekend. Right. I was okay, that's a smart time. Everybody that's played.
That's usually how it happens.
It's a smart time to do it.
That's
People
usually how I
off.
prefer it to happen myself.
But, the way our league works is the person who wins gets to decide where it takes place, when it takes place. And when it was announced that it was going to be last weekend, obviously we had plans, so we couldn't be there. So basically now the last 4 years, I've shown up every other year to draft. 1 year I sent Jason to go out there and draft, and I was okay with the team. So when I got the results back, I said the first thing was thank you. I looked at Andrea's team first, and I said, okay, that's not a bad team. And then I started looking at my names, and I'm looking like, okay, Julio Jones is good, but granted, I did have Taylor Gabriel. And then I look in the second round, it's Ty Hilton. Third round, Joe Mixon. Fourth round, Golden Tate. Fifth round, Frank Gore. And I'm starting to look at this team and I'm going, wait a minute. Okay, you got a situation where these names are okay, but I kind of felt like the value and the rankings were way off. So I said to myself, okay, I'm not going to be judgmental because then Adam's going to call me a bitch and then say that he's going to invalidate my thoughts.
And I did.
Which is what I didn't want. So like I always do, I said, you know what? I'm going to remove myself from the equation. I'm going to go to the people. The people on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. I said, look, I wasn't at the draft. I was not able to attend this situation. So what do you think? And the results came back and people were like, dude, what did you ever do to your boy to get a team like that? And I started saying to myself, okay, I think Adam has to go on trial. So right now, we're going to have a trial, and we're going to decide, did you purposely bone me, or did you do what you felt was in the best interest for the league or for the others? Coming to the witness stand, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. We're going to ask you some questions here regarding what the hell you decided to do with my team. So the first thing is, you decided on a rule change based upon the recommendations of your stepfather, correct?
How many people? The league voted.
How many people were for it?
There were 8 people attending the draft. So basically 7 people voted yes. I was the one who voted no because I knew what it meant for me.
Okay, it meant a lot of extra work. Now, so the rules that were established were, prior to the rule change, was whatever position was ranked higher, the best player available, whatever position he was at, that was previous.
Yeah, the previous rule was no matter what position it was, highest player available, according to ESPN's top 200 list.
So if you look at my team, how it is now with the rule change, as opposed to what could have been had there been other players drafted for me based on best player available, do you think that team that would have been drafted based upon the old way would have been better than this team?
I think there's probability that it would have been better, yes.
There's probability that I would have had a better team based upon the old rules.
Yes.
I was basically not at a draft, and now I'm exposed to a situation where my team is worse because of a rule change that I'm not part of.
Correct.
Okay. So that would indicate that I got boned. Step one.
But not by me.
Not by you.
Not by me.
Okay.
By the league. Look, you looked at your wife's team. I had to draft her team. You thought that came out pretty well, right?
It was not bad.
Okay. If you look at the draft results, I think in the picture I sent you, Tom Jr.'s team lined up right next to yours because I drafted his team as well. His team came out okay as well, right? I mean, here's the thing, man. I told you I was drafting 6 teams. Somebody's going to get the short end of the stick. It happened to be you. I did not do it on purpose. I am sorry. Go ahead. You continue, and then I'll cross-examine.
Yeah, what I'm going to say is that next year I'll propose probably something different where if somebody's not there, then you just pick. Let the person pick who's drafting the team. Because in the end, it's going to be you, and you have some sense about you, and so you don't have to use a formula. I'm saying potentially that by using a formula either way, you're going to end up with, I got 2 receivers from the same team, and I got a quarterback in Andrew Luck who's injured. And I look at myself and I go, I don't think you would have drafted me, Andrew Luck, if it was just yours. You might have taken Matthew Stafford, who went around later. Maybe you could have picked someone else.
I probably for you, if I was drafting for you, because what I tried to do is I tried to mix what you like to do, because I kind of know how you like to draft, and I know how I like to draft. It's a little bit different. I probably would have drafted you, Andrew Luck. I would have made sure that you had a competent backup quarterback. Okay. And I think Sam Bradford is a backup competent quarterback. That's who your backup is. Now, I know you laugh, but Sam Bradford has a lot of weapons at his disposal. Stephon Diggs is primed to have a big year. Adam Thielen's a solid backup wide receiver. And on top of that, you've got Dalvin Cook and Latavius Murray, who are both solid running backs. I think Sam Bradford will be able to get you through your first 4 weeks until Andrew Luck comes back. So I probably would have took Andrew Luck for you. And that being said, looking at the draft sheet that I had in front of me at the time, the highest rated quarterback at that moment was Andrew Luck.
Okay, see, I would have taken Matthew Stafford instead of Andrew Luck, knowing that potentially I have Golden Tate. So if you just look realistically how you could have improved my team, then you could have looked and said, okay, I could pair Golden Tate with Matthew Stafford. Now you got a double action. So he went around later. So that's a position where I can look at it and say, this is something that could be much improved had you just been given the freedom to potentially make the draft and do it your own way. Now, I'm going to call a star witness to the court right now. I'm going to call the resident Detroit Sports Podcast Network fantasy expert to the stand, and he's going to tell me what he thought. We welcome in Jason Jarvie. Welcome to the podcast, Jason.
What up, John?
No doubt about it. You're my star witness.
Long time.
What's up, Jason?
Okay.
Don't be a shill for this guy.
No, I'm calling you to the stand because we have Adam on trial because of the fact that he jacked up my team. And so you had, eloquently put that it looked like from your expert analysis that based upon the rounds that people were taking, that the player in the third round was basically the best fourth round talent when you looked at it. So what say you, Jason, in terms of how did Adam make my team, in your opinion?
So it looked like, from my perspective, that Adam picked your team based more on what they could do, more so than what they're actually going to give you. Like Joe Mixon as your number one running back is a gigantic stretch. Now, the picture that I was given, I only see 4 different players. So I don't know exactly who other running backs were there, who else you could have picked. I think Joe Mixon might have been a little bit of a stretch at that point. So then you start, you get Frank Gore as your number 2. You get the corpse of a guy who, he might still be good for, 500, 600 yards. I'm just not sure what the Colts are going to do. You went very Colt heavy on John's team, and I'm not sure if he, passed a note along to you beforehand. It was like, hey, take every single Indianapolis Colt that you can, but and Andrew Luck, man, I heard a little bit of your conversation before. Andrew Luck is a starting quarterback, and getting him Sam Bradford in the second to last round is criminal. We're not sure if Luck is going to play this year.
See, Jason, that's what I was telling Adam, in that if we were given the rights to not just go by some formula, then he could just freely pick somebody else. He could look and go, wow, John's got a couple Colts here. Why do I want to give him an injured Andrew Luck when Matthew Stafford was available, knowing that I have Golden Tate? That's egregious, isn't it, on the highest level?
Now, my thing is, so I see Andrew Luck. At that round, it's not the worst, but the fact that you wait until the second to last round to get him another quarterback. If it would have been me, I would have taken Andrew Luck because he does have high value if he actually plays. It's not sure if, he could miss the first 4 weeks. He could miss the entire season. We're not sure when that shoulder is going to be completely healthy. What I would have done, because in the next round you took another Colt, the tight end Jack Doyle, and I would have taken Matthew Stafford at that point. I would have gone quarterback, and you would have set him up then to have a pretty solid team. He has his quarterback set, and then when Andrew Luck, if he does come back this season, then he can choose between those two guys, and then he even has a trade piece that he can offer to somebody to improve his depleted running back corps.
Now, to make my point further, guess who ended up with Matthew Stafford? Said wife of Jock.
It looks like his wife.
Yeah, see? So how do you answer, Adam? You've been listening to some of the evidence against you. What say you?
All right, Jason, wouldn't you agree that drafting 6 teams, it tends to be a little bit difficult?
Wait, you drafted 6 teams?
I drafted 6 teams in this draft.
That's ridiculous.
Yes, exactly. So that's point number 1. Number 2, in our league, running backs are a scarcity. So this goes back to your Joe Mixon comment. Running backs in our league are a scarcity. At the time when Joe Mixon was drafted, David Johnson was gone. Le'Veon Bell was gone. LaShawn McCoy was gone. Melvin Gordon was gone. Devonta Freeman was gone. Jay Ajayi, gone. DeMarco Murray gone. Todd Gurley gone. Leonard Fournette was gone. Lamar Miller was gone. So at this point, there's hardly anything left. Carlos Hyde is gone. So at this point, Joe Mixon is on the board. He's the highest rated running back that we have left because all of the other running backs have been taken by other teams drafting. So I went out and according to all the research that I've done, Joe Mixon was a guy that I was targeting for myself, for my own team. And from what it sounds like, Joe Mixon is going to be the number one running back in Cincinnati. So I tried to do
He's
he's
going to be splitting time with Jeremy Hill and Gio Bernard. Can't deny that.
He will be, but from what I hear, he's going to get the bulk of the carries, and at some point he's probably going to push Jeremy Hill out of the conversation. So I tried to give you a guy with some high upside, some value, somebody who's going to be able to basically carry the load there. Now, Frank Gore, look, I'm not high on Frank Gore, but he was there. He was the highest rated running back that was available at the time. So I sat there, I tried to give you a guy who was highly rated. Terrence West, he's your next running back that you have. He's the starter in Baltimore. I mean, at this point, late in the draft. Now, what are we talking about? Sixth round. I'm trying to draft you starting running backs because there's not a whole lot left at this point. I mean, running backs in our league go really quick, and I'm the major culprit of just sucking up as many running backs as possible because my wide receiver core this year is brutal. So I pick a lot of running backs early. Other people pick running backs early because they are a scarcity.
Okay, so Jason, based upon what you've heard, and so basically what happens in the league is if someone's not there, then Adam is tasked with drafting the team, but they've used a formula which is basically best position player available at that position. So do you agree that potentially a rule change could be proposed that would have helped my team to be better in that let the person who's drafting the team just pick the player?
That has nothing to do with what happened at the draft. I mean, yeah, we can do that for the future, but that has no bearing on what took place at the draft.
No, it does not have a bearing, but at the same time, because of the formula that you use,
I agree that the way that your team got put together and the way that the rule is constructed, did it possibly hurt your team? I agree with you. But at the same point, I can only do so much. You got to remember, I'm drafting 6 teams in this league. I'm running the board. And on top of all that, I've got to make sure all the idiots are in line because I also have to run the draft clock. Okay? So I'm wearing many hats. I'm sorry that out of all the teams that got drafted, your team was probably the one that took the brunt of everything. Look, man, I went back and I looked at my team, and there are things that I wish I would have redid, but I was all over the place trying to handle everybody else's team. Listen, next year, it's not happening that way. Next year, I've already got it figured out because I'm not doing this shit again.
Okay, I object.
6 teams is nuts.
Yeah, I object. Stop badgering the witness. All I'm asking is, do you think that we should give more power to the person who is drafting the team to just draft whoever they want?
Well, the first thing I'd say is show up to your draft.
There you go. Problem solved, right? Problem solved.
When I saw this, and I was under the assumption that Adam is drafting for himself and drafting for you, and I figured your wife probably because I know you're both out of town. But now knowing that he's drafting for 6 people, I honestly can't blame him. The only blame I might put him on is the whole Andrew Luck and not getting you a better backup for that. But when you are drafting for 6 players, he admits it. He admits that he was doing a lot. And I was at a draft there for one year, and the guy does a lot in that league. So another question I do have, when you did draft Joe Mixon, was Zeke Elliott still on the board?
Zeke was, let's see, it goes down. No, Zeke was already gone. That's a pick that I wish I would have had back. I ended up taking Crowell. I took Isaiah Crowell. And the very next pick was Ezekiel Elliott. I wish I would have took Ezekiel Elliott. But yeah, no, Isaiah Crowell I took instead. And yes, no, Zeke was gone at that time. If Zeke was still around, I would have thought about it for him, just based upon the value that he could bring to his team. I at that point, I was trying to get him a guy who I thought would sit there and pay the most dividends for him, and I think Joe Mixon's going to be that guy. And might I add, when I drafted you, Joe Mixon, everybody in the room, there was an audible gasp and an man, that's a really good pick for him.
Okay, so Jason, overall, you think that Adam did not bone his boy in terms of drafting, knowing that he had 6 people. Is that your take?
Having all the facts now, I think he probably drafted you outside of the luck pick. Outside of that, he drafted you the best team that he could have.
Okay, Jason, thank you for your time. We appreciate your service to your community. Best of luck. And you can listen to Jason's podcast every Friday, the Fantasy Nerds podcast on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Take care, Jason.
Later, guys.
See you, bud.
Okay. So with the information that was presented, I can kind of give you a pass. I'm a little upset with that I did get, basically what you said is my team was affected the most by the rule change. But
And I didn't mean for that to happen.
But it was not intentional, okay, which is good, which was the nature of the trial. And everybody that did message in, Adam did not purposely bone his co-host. I know part of him is a little bit happy that I was the guy that got screwed, but that's okay. I will overcome, and it'll make it much better.
Can I explain? Can I explain some of your draft picks too? Is that
no?
cool?
You don't have to explain anything.
But I want to make sure the air is totally clear here because I did not intentionally try to bone you. I do think if we would have changed, if the rule would have been the way it should have been and the way it normally was, I think your team might have been better. But that being said, okay, Joe Mixon was a pick that I took, like a guy that I was targeting for my own team. All right, that was a guy that I sat there, I targeted for you, I picked for you, and because everything that I've read, everything that I've heard, all the videos that I've watched about fantasy football, he is supposed to be the number one running back in Cincinnati. I believe by the end of the year, he will be doing the Lions' share of the work in Cincinnati, and Jeremy Hill will be an afterthought. So that was that pick. Frank Gore is a starting running back. That's a team that has an offense that doesn't have a starting quarterback, all right, which we'll get to in a moment, all right? So that's an offense that's going to probably going to run a lot more than they're going to throw, at least early on until Andrew Luck does come back. Terrence West is a starting running back in Baltimore, all right? He's their number one guy. He's a guy who should pay some dividends for you, especially with Joe Flacco being injured, and that's an offense that likes to run the ball as well. So again, run-heavy offenses with running backs for you. Look, I know none of these guys are standout names. They're not top 10 running backs, but all those guys were gone. So I'm trying to do the best with a bad hand here. Rex Burkhead is a guy who I believe will probably be the number one running back in New England. Okay, that's why I took Rex Burkhead for you. I believe in the end, he will probably be getting 50% of the carries in New England. All right, he can run, he can catch, and he can sit there and he can block. And that's what you got to do in New England. All right, Alvin Kamara, that's just an upside pick. I mean, maybe he pans out. Maybe next year he's your keeper instead of who'd you have this year? Taylor Gabriel? I was like, who? Who are you keeping? I mean, like Mohamed Sanu is their second guy. You're taking like a third guy, a third wide receiver on an offense that is pass heavy, but who? My point. So Alvin Kamara, that was a guy who I sat there and I was looking forward for you. Let's go back to Andrew Luck. All right, Andrew Luck, at the time that I made that draft pick, I know that you like Andrew Luck, okay? Generally you do. So he was available. On top of it, he was my highest rated quarterback I had available. Remember, Mariota was gone at this point. Cam Newton was gone at this point. Rodgers, of course, was gone. That's your wife's first overall pick. Tom Brady's gone. Who else? Basically, every freaking quarterback that you could think of, not named Matt Stafford, not named, I think Ben Roethlisberger was gone at this point as well. I'd have to go back and look at the entire draft. I mean, the only other guy might have been Phillip Rivers. He was still available, and maybe he'd have been a better pick for you. But I know that you like Andrew Luck, so I went with Andrew Luck for you, and I believe his injury is only going to sideline him for maybe 4 weeks. So I figure if I can get you a backup who is decent. Now let's go to the backup. All right, the backup is Sam Bradford. Again, Sam Bradford's got a brand new running back who looks like a weapon. He's got Stephon Diggs, who was a monster last year. Thielen looks like he's a solid number 2 running back. All right, this is going to be an offense that will throw more than it threw last year, and Sam Bradford had a pretty solid year last year. All right, I mean, it's Sam Bradford. Take it for what it's worth. Would I have liked to got you a better backup? Look, man, I didn't even realize that Alex Smith was still on the board. If I would have realized Alex Smith was still on the board, I'd have got you Alex Smith.
Okay, right? So what is the proposed rule change for next year if a team doesn't draft? What do you want to do?
Next year, what I'm going to do, there's no, this is going to be like the commissioner is going to exercise some power. This is what we're going to do. We're going to sit there. We're going to draw names for the people who aren't there. Everybody in the room will draw from a hat. Some of you will have a 0. Some of you will have a name written down. If you have a name written down, you are drafting for that person.
Ooh, I like it. Okay.
So what that does is that now alleviates me from having to take on more than I have to do, and whoever is drafting, that team who's not there is saddled with whatever that other person can do for you. That's just the way it's going to be.
And they can do whatever they want.
Yep. However you want to draft it. I don't care if you want to draft invertedly where you're drafting kickers and defenses first. Not my problem.
Okay, so now here's the final ruling. You had the case won up until the point where you made your final declaration that you changed the rules. So In the
I didn't change it. The league voted on it.
No. In the matter of did Adam Straczynski mess up John's team, he is guilty. Did he do it intentionally, but without intent, without malice? Understood. He is guilty of fucking up my team. But that's okay.
How am I guilty? I wasn't the one that changed the rule. I voted no against the rule change.
You are guilty.
The league voted yes.
Because
7-1. I lost.
Well, you are the commissioner, and as a commissioner, you sometimes have to make the tough decision and go, whoa,
Yes.
this could potentially hit someone's team.
After this year,
Yes.
after drafting 6 teams where I wanted to eat a bullet and I had to deal with one of the guys who was there, that team I had to draft, and he
That's
was
right.
crying the entire time.
Guilty.
On top of that, that dummy didn't even know if this player was a wide receiver or if the guy was a running back. So I totally wanted to eat a bullet during the draft.
No, listen, you did a good job, man, knowing what you did. You are guilty of fucking up my team, but that's okay.
Hey,
you
man,
didn't do it intentionally.
I did
There's
not
no
do
malice.
it on purpose. I am sorry that you're not happy with your team.
I like the rule change next year that whoever, but at the same time, I would maybe make a caveat that they just got to draft realistically. They can't draft kicker. They have to draft realistically
Yes, you have to
within
put the team-
reason.
that'll
Within
be the
reason.
caveat. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you can't have...
Because listen, unfortunately, this is the reason that it's hard to organize a draft is that some people are going to be out of town, and that's why, obviously, based upon 4 people, not showing up, in that whoever picked the time and date, obviously, it was a poor choice because a lot of people couldn't do it. You have to be a little bit flexible where if you can get at some
people, 4 people didn't attend.
8 came 4. I think we had better ratio 2 years ago than this year.
Might have.
So
Might have. And
Okay.
one of the guys who didn't attend, if he really wanted to work things out, he probably could have attended. And same thing for maybe the other guy. I mean, really and truly, you two were the only 2 that might not have showed.
Right.
And honestly, if the one guy who was there didn't have a complete meltdown and cry like a little girl,
it might have gone down differently.
it might have been a little bit easier on me.
Yeah, potentially. Okay. It's always fun to recap our drafts. Very fun stuff. Real quickly, my trip to Traverse City was nice. I got to relax on the beach. Traverse City is always nice. But, in terms of the Mayweather fight, I didn't even make it. 11:30, we had hiked 4 miles. We were hanging out at the beach, having some cocktails. By the time I heard about the delays, my head was so tired, and I was like, you know what, Andrea? I was kicking myself because I didn't bet the fight. I'm really kicking myself now because I knew that was probably the safest money bet in the history of sports. And I told her, honey, look, we got this much in savings. If I had bet everything we had in life savings, we would have made like 8 to 10 grand doing nothing. But then she said, your luck that we would have fell asleep and you would have woke up and Conor McGregor would have had the biggest upset in the history of sports and we would have no money. I'm like, come on, honey. I knew it. Everybody told me it was going to be Floyd Mayweather, no doubt about it. But in the end, I'm glad everybody who paid the $100 got their money's worth. Everybody seemed happy. And what ended up happening was what was supposed to go down. Floyd won the fight.
Yeah, you know what? It really and truly, the fight went the way I thought it was going to go. I thought McGregor would come out in a hurry, would come out in a fury. He did. Depending on who you believe and what you believe, he won the first 3 or 4 rounds.
Connected, did some things. He didn't look like total scrubs, which is good.
Right. And then after that, he just kind of tired himself out. And you have to realize, the way boxers train, it's unbelievable. You're a guy in MMA, you're not fighting as long as a boxer normally fights, so the way you're training is a little bit different. Essentially, McGregor was going to have to sit there and run a half marathon 2 to 3 times a week leading up to this fight. And you just can't do that. You can't do that on the shortened time period that he was trying to do it on. So his only hope rested in a knockout blow in one of the first 3 rounds. That didn't happen. After that, it was just tick-tock, tick-tock. When was Mayweather going to sit there and put the kibosh on the fight? And he ended up turning the lights out in the 10th round.
Like we said, we had a good feeling that at some point Floyd was going to outbox Conor McGregor, and that was, both. I give them both credit for really, in essence, marketing a fight that everybody knew what the outcome was going to be and still making it an entertaining product, and many people still enjoyed it. They paid the $100, but the number that I'm still shocked by, it still to this day resonates. 3 million people tried to steal the feed. 3 million, bro. And I started to see it too in that people online were periscoping it. People were just asking outright, what's the link for the fight? And they were giving it, and I got to see some of the prelims on my Periscope. I'm like, what the hell? But then, at some point in time, people were giving out links that get shut down. That had to be some kind of ordeal to somehow program it where any feed that was up had to get shut down. But some people said after the fight, they said, I got to watch it for HD for free.
My stepdad did.
Isn't that awesome?
He's got a hot box where he can sit there and he can
do his business.
Tap into all of that.
Isn't that awesome?
So yeah,
we talked about it.
He said it was awesome.
3 million people. That's a lot of money, bro.
It is.
That's a lot of money. $100 a pop. I'd be a little bit
look,
frustrated.
Man, these dudes still made out. It doesn't matter. Honestly, it's a pittance to them. I mean, look, McGregor was for sure making at least 30 out the door before all the pay-per-view money and whatever the ticket sales were, before all that even came in. So
Bro.
both these guys made at least six figures.
Bro, $3 million at $100 a pop is $300 million.
Yeah.
That's a lot of scratch.
It's a lot of money.
I'm
but still-
investigating.
But still, dude, these dudes still made bank. It doesn't even matter. I mean, honestly, you know who got hurt? The pay-per-view company got hurt.
Yeah.
And really and truly, what does that matter? Does that matter to you? Does that matter to me? Does that matter to those guys? No. It doesn't matter to anybody. Who cares?
Well, if I'm the bean counters and I'm going, whoa, $300 million, that could potentially be $50 million each to these guys.
Whatever.
It's going to
Look,
happen.
man,
right?
you still made $350 million. You come talk to me about $50 million. I don't give a damn.
But yeah, it was so hilarious. And then I'm like, honey, we can't make it. We conked out. 11:30. I was out both nights. Both nights we did so much. I was out.
I was going to say, did you really enjoy Traverse City?
I loved it.
It's awesome, isn't it?
It's a relaxing town. It's something that I found interesting and fascinating because it's a tourist town. A lot of foreign workers from Serbia, from Spain, from Brazil. Nicest people on earth. We kind of interviewed a couple because they were so overwhelmingly nice. Can I get your water, sir? Can I get you this, sir? And I'm like, wow. And they tell me they're on, we did a little bit of chatting with them. They're on visas for the summer and they leave at the end of September. One person's going out to San Diego for 3 weeks. A nice dude. But I'm telling you, best service I've had outside of potentially, nice establishments that, charge a lot of money. Best service I've ever had.
Yep.
Water, the second it was dry, boom, they filled it. Super nice. They chatted. They weren't rushed. They were super friendly. And I was like, man, how crazy is that? Is that these people come from out of the country, speak very well, and are very kind. And they gave us the best service. It was like literally they were waiting on us hand and foot.
Yeah. Every time I've gone a few times.
I love it.
Always a great time. Always have an outstanding time. Did you happen to check out Right Brain Brewery by chance? It's
no,
my favorite brewery.
Oh, no breweries. We went to a couple wineries.
Couple wineries? Okay.
It was for the wife, man, not for me.
Well, dude, she likes beer, doesn't she?
Yeah, she drinks,
Look,
but-
she's a Strozinski, bro.
Yeah.
There's a total degenerate, defunct gene in her somewhere.
Yeah, but we went down to the wineries. We went to like 3 of them. Got down on a Sunday, so it was a fun time.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I got to work extra hard, man. I got to do like 8 podcasts a week, man. Maybe buy a retirement home out there.
Right.
But it was nice to go downtown by the water just to relax for a couple of days, away from the practice, away from everything. So it was super nice, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But yeah, so tired. I'm old. I did not watch the fight. So they didn't get the fight at the wedding?
No fight at the wedding. A couple people were walking around on their phones. I was able to glean it off of that. I was able to sit there, and I found a link on Facebook. I watched most of it there. So, and on top of that, when I got home, because the wedding ended a little bit early for me, by the time I got home, the fight was still ongoing. I was able to turn ESPN on just as it was finishing, and I got all highlights. So
Yeah.
I was able to see the highlights. I was able to watch the fight a day later, and I was able to catch bits and pieces of the prelims and everything that led up to the fight from people walking around holding it in their hand.
All right, let's take our first time out. We'll come back. Start of the college football season. Everyone's excited. We'll talk some Michigan State, previewing some of this weekend's action, and we'll finish off the podcast talking Detroit Lions football and the Doc and Jock Pro Wrestling Report. Stay with us. Doc here. I want to tell you about our host site, Podomatic.com. When Adam and I first started this project, we were looking for a place to host all of our recorded audio, and thank goodness we found Podomatic. Easy to use host site. When we record a podcast, we can upload it within 5 minutes, generate quality links so that all of our supporters can listen, find the podcast super easy. And Adam and I love it when we get reports that, hey, we love your podcast. We even get reports from overseas, some people in England, Spain, all over Europe. People will message us and say, thank you for keeping us abreast as to what's going on in Detroit sports. We wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't have a great host site. Podomatic.com. Super easy to use. They've been around since 2005. If you're starting a brand new project and you want to reach the levels of success that we have, we recommend one host site and one host site alone. Podomatic.com. The modern day Maharaja,
do like
Jim
that song.
Harbaugh, takes his University of Michigan football team down to Dallas, takes on Florida. Modern day Maharaja, Jim Harbaugh. That's a good nickname for him, huh?
It is.
What do you think, man? You excited for this weekend's college football
Dude,
action?
I'm so pumped up. You realize that there were games on last week?
I saw them at
was
TV,
like,
yeah.
It was like, I don't know, it was like Stanford versus Rice. I don't know, it was atrocious games, just brutal. But no, man, I am super pumped up. I've already got my Saturday planned out. I'm getting up in the morning. Me and a couple of my buddies, we're going to go golf really early. From there, we're probably going to end up at Art and Jake's because that's the spot where we always end up to watch games. We're going to probably end up there, and we're going to take in the Michigan-Florida game. I'm excited. I want to see what these Mays unis look like. I'm kind of pumped up for them. Dude, what do you think about that? Do you like those?
Listen, I saw the uproar, and I'm like, what's wrong with Michigan fans? I understand the traditionalists that don't like, new things or they don't want to change, but you got to change with the times. The Mays unis are nice. I thought they were cool.
I like them a lot. The only thing I would like that's a little bit different is I'd like to see some all blue unis with some Mays piping going around them. I think if they had all blue unis with the Mays, and then Florida showed up in all orange unis with the blue, I think that would be better. Instead, it's going to basically be a color rush game. Michigan's going to have the yellows. Florida's going to have the blues. It'll be interesting. I think it'll be fun to watch. I think the way it's going to play out, it should be a really good game, dude. It really should.
You ready to hunker down 4 hours? Because it's going to be a long game.
It's going to be a long one.
Commercials, all the stoppages, maybe all the scoring plays that take place. It's going to be one where it's not going to be a short game.
No, I've got my drinking shoes on, so I'm ready to go, man. It's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good time. Hopefully my golf game doesn't let me down because that always just kind of slides me into the tank early. But yeah, man, it should be a really good game. I'm interested. I want to see what Harbaugh does because there's been a lot of back and forth going on between Florida and U of M. A lot going on with Jim McElwain taking shots at Jim Harbaugh, and Jim Harbaugh not really retaliating, but kind of slipping some verbal jabs underneath the radar there. So I really want to see if Michigan comes out with their pants on fire. And you got to remember too, Florida's got a lot of guys suspended for this game. A lot of their top end talent is going to be riding the pine for this game just because they're dummies and they've done dumb things. So Florida stepped in, Jim McElwain stepped in and like, look, you guys are going to sit down. So I want to see if Michigan can capitalize on this. And look, there's going to be a ton of overreaction to this game. If Michigan wins, everybody's going to sit there and be like, oh my God, we're going to sit there. We're going to be playing in the playoff this year. We're going to take the Big Ten by storm. If Michigan loses, Jim Harbaugh needs to be fired. This team's a dumpster fire. When is he going to win the big game? So a ton of overreaction both ways, depending on how this game plays out.
How much of the luster of the game was lost for you, knowing that some of the Florida players, some of the marquee players, got suspended for off-the-field issues? Does it ruin the fun of the game? Because Michigan-Florida, number 11 team versus number 17 team to start the season, should have all the luster of a playoff game. It's going to be one where it's going to be hard-hitting. You have the SEC versus the Big Ten storyline. You have the coaches going back and forth. But it seems like some of the marquee players from Florida getting suspended is taking the luster off some of the game for me.
You know what? It really hasn't affected it for me. Here's the thing. This is a little known fact about Adam. Michigan is my number 1 favorite team, and Florida's my number 2 favorite team.
Why?
I don't know. I've always liked Florida. You know what? I used to like Florida when Steve Spurrier was down there and he was running that run and gun offense. I used to love it. I don't know why. I just did. I like the Gator Chomp. I always hated Florida State, just the way it was. I didn't care for the U, so I always liked Florida. If I had to pick a Florida team, it was always the Gators. So,
oh, you're gay.
Well, whatever, it's your choice. it's your opinion. No, man, it doesn't for me at all. And you've got to realize, too, it's early in the season, so this game would be a lot better if it took place later on in the year. But it's early in the season. These teams are trying to figure out what they've got to work on. So it's going to kind of be one of those hiccup games. Like Michigan and Florida will not be rocking and rolling. They will not be a well-oiled machine for this very first game. I can guarantee that. All right, the teams that you see when Michigan takes on Ohio State later on in the year, or when Michigan takes on Michigan State later in the year, those teams are going to look dramatically different than the team you're going to see this Saturday. So I'm hyped because it's the opening game of the college football year for Michigan. I'm hyped because it's U of M versus Florida. I'm hyped because it's a neutral site game. This is a big game. This is going to be like the ABC game of the day or whatever it is. So I'm hyped up about that. There is no luster taken off because some players at Florida were dummies. Look, either way you cut this bread, it's going to be a big game for me.
And so many people are pointing to Michigan secondary as being the unit that we got to watch out for. Can Florida pick apart Michigan secondary to score a bunch of points? So I do think Michigan's defense is going to have a tough challenge against Florida.
Who's the Florida quarterback? Anybody know? Nobody knows.
Okay, so you're liking Michigan to take this one down, huh?
I think Michigan's going to take it down. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Florida's got a very good team. And yeah, I do think them losing 6 to 9 players that are going to be sidelined for this game, I think that hurts them. I think Michigan wins it by a field goal.
I got Florida just because of the SEC, the speed, a lot of turnover for Michigan. You're going to have Wilton Spade probably behind center. That's the guy that everyone's pointing to be the quarterback. Can he take that next step? I think Florida's got a lot to offer. I do think that they're going to be affected by the loss of some of their marquee players. But at the same time, when it comes down to crunch time in marquee games, if Florida can hang around and they can make it's a neutral site game, remember now, if they can make it a close game in the fourth quarter, then just maybe Michigan might get conservative. They might make that final mistake to allow Florida to take the game. It's going to be a slobber knocker. This might even be an overtime game.
Might be.
Loss.
At some point, Harbaugh has to have learned from his prior mistakes. His mistakes versus Ohio State, his mistakes versus Michigan State. You can't get conservative when the game's close. You got to sit there and you got to go full throttle.
And for me, going into the bye week, I have them winning out. Cincinnati, Air Force, Purdue, I got them winning.
All right, yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think they're going to go Cincinnati, Air Force, Purdue. Air Force is going to be a tough game. They run a screwy offense, but I still think Michigan's better talent-wise, and that's what wins out. So I've got, at that point, going into the bye week, I've got Michigan 4-0. You've got them 3-1.
No doubt about it. Now the big game early this year, Saturday, October 7th versus Michigan State. It's in Ann Arbor. That's the edge. I believe Michigan State is going to have around a 6-6 year this year with increased expectations slightly, but at the same time, you have to be realistic. You don't go from 3 wins to the National College Football Playoff. So I have Michigan winning that game.
Yeah, I think Michigan wins that game as well. I think it's not as close as last year's game. I think Michigan really sits there and kind of takes it to them this year. Again, questions for Michigan State is their depth. Also, Michigan's coming off a bye week, so they get an extra week to prepare. I think that's the difference.
They go on the road to Indiana. They get the win. The tough game for Michigan in the test, I think, right there, right smack dab in the middle of the season, is at Penn State. They're going to be looking to avenge the game that they lost versus Michigan. You got to remember that game, too, last year. A lot of Penn State's linebackers were hurt, and Michigan was able to expose them. But Penn State got a lot better. Franklin's doing some things over there, and I got that as a loss.
I think Michigan wins that game. I think it's a close game. I think this is really similar to what you had early in the season when they sat there and they played Florida. It's going to be a close game. I think at this point, Michigan has found their groove. I think they know what they've got with the receivers. I think they know what they have with that young offensive line as well as that secondary. I think they're rocking and rolling. I think they win a close one in Penn State.
The rest of the way for me is easy. Rutgers, Minnesota on the road at Maryland, Wisconsin, and Ohio State. I have them winning out until Ohio State. Saturday, November 25th will be a loss. I got Michigan with 3 losses this year. Opening versus Florida, versus Penn State, and versus Ohio State. I got Michigan with 3 losses this year.
I think they end up beating Minnesota. I think they sit there, they travel to Maryland, they win that game, and they win at Wisconsin, another close game. And then they go and they face Ohio State. The season's riding on them, what they can do with Ohio State, and I think they lose again to Ohio State.
And the question that was asked nationally on Mike and Mike on Wednesday was, how much time do Michigan fans give Jim Harbaugh if the rivalry goes to form and Ohio State keeps winning? Let's say, for example, they go 11-1 every year, but that one loss is to Ohio State. Is that tolerable for a decade? The question and the way they posed it was, can Jim Harbaugh survive 10 years at Michigan if he goes 10-11 wins but keeps losing to Ohio State?
I don't think so. I think the pressure's already on. I think Michigan fans are starting to ask that question. Can you beat Urban Meyer, or are you going to be Urban Meyer's bitch for the rest of your career? And, maybe that's unfair because he has had quite a bit of turnover from last year. A lot of guys going to the NFL draft, and you're getting in new classes here and there. And he really hasn't even had his own full class yet underneath his belt. But at some point, you got to start winning the big games. I mean, yeah, it's cool that you beat Michigan State. Now you got to beat Ohio State. You got to do the heavy lifting. Look, I'm not trying to sit there and downgrade what Michigan State is, but you've seen what happened to them last year. Their season was in the toilet. You should have beat them last year. At some point, you got to now beat the big dog, the guy who runs the yard, right, to steal a line from Roman Reigns. And at some point, Michigan has to go in, and they've got to beat Ohio State, whether it's at home or whether it's in Ohio.
Okay, now switching gears, talking about the Spartans. Many people after a 3-9 year are really looking at Mark D'Antonio, looking at the program. It's been relatively quiet in terms of the football side of things. You don't hear too much in these parts of town regarding the Spartans. I'm excited to see what they're going to be able to do. They open Saturday at noon versus Bowling Green. The first couple games, you think that they're going to probably handle their business. I got them winning versus Bowling Green, winning versus Western Michigan ahead of their bye week. To start the year, you're going to be looking for a couple things. How are the young players, because Michigan State is young at a lot of positions, how are they going to step up and play versus, collegiate opponents? Bowling Green, Western Michigan should provide good tests, but Michigan State has enough talent to win those games. But the first couple things I'm going to be looking at are how are the Spartans going to respond to some of their key offensive talent being kicked off the team for the off-the-field nonsense that took place? How is Lewerke, who is slated to be the starting quarterback, how is he going to run the offense? And in essence, how is that offensive line going to look when you have the trio of running backs that are really going to have high expectations on them this year? LJ Scott should be able to carry that offense in the first couple weeks.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they get wins against Bowling Green and Western Michigan as they head into their bye. And like you said, the big question is what is that depth at? What can they sit there and can they stand to lose if they do suffer an injury early? And I do agree with you. I think LJ Scott is the key for that offense. I think Brian Lewerke gets some good reps in against Bowling Green, against Western Michigan. I think he finds his groove, and I think he's going to settle down. He'll be okay. Their big test is when they come off the bye week. And yeah, thank goodness they have that bye week to sit there and prepare for Notre Dame. But that's going to be the big test, is that game right there. It'll be their third game of the season. It'll be in the week 4. I think having the bye week helps them, and I think they go into Notre Dame, and I think they can sit there and they can squeak one out. Look, this team, the way it is set up right now, there's a lot of questions and not a whole lot of answers out there, and I think that's the way Mark D'Antonio likes it. He can sit there and he can tell these guys, look, you got to play with a chip on your shoulder. You got to play mean. You got to play nasty. Everybody's got us written off. Everybody thinks we're the lowest of the low. We're in the doldrums of the Big Ten. You know what? Let's show them different. And I think he's going to get the absolute best out of this team. We always talk about potential being a scary factor. I always talk about guys who sit there and don't live up to it, don't play up to it. I think at this point, Mark D'Antonio gets the most potential out of these guys.
I got Notre Dame being a loss. Then playing Iowa, I got that a loss as well. So I got them winning the first couple games and then losing to Notre Dame, Iowa, and Michigan in a trio of losses.
Wow, that's going to be a rough stretch. I think they win against Iowa. Iowa's got to come into Michigan State and play them. Look, if they were going to Kennett Stadium, I think it'd be different. But I think Iowa's got to travel on the road. I don't think Iowa has enough. I think Michigan State gets that win. I think they travel to Michigan, and I think that's where they suffer their first L.
And then you got the rest of the way versus the Big Ten. In the middle stretch there, I have Michigan State winning versus Minnesota, winning versus Indiana, and then another stretch of 3-game losses where they lose at Northwestern versus Penn State, at Ohio State, and then winning out versus Maryland and Rutgers. So I have them going 6-6 this year.
I've got them winning at Minnesota, winning at Indiana, and then the wheels start to kind of come off here. I think they lose to Northwestern because Northwestern always plays them tight. I think they lose to Penn State, and I think they lose to Ohio State. And I think at that point, they're pretty much waving the white flag. Maryland comes in and pops them one more time. And what ends up happening is they end up winning at Rutgers to sit there and salvage their season.
So you got them having what, 5 wins?
I've got them winning. I think I've got one more than you. I think I've got 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope, 6.
6.
Yep.
We just have them at different spots. I have the Spartans having 2 3-game losing streaks, and you have them sprinkled out, kind of having up and down year. But I think most pundits are in the neighborhood of Michigan State having 6 to 7 wins, and that's realistic because of the fact that we all got to wait and see how the Spartans respond to a tumultuous season last year.
I lied to you. 7. I've got them winning 7. I got them going 7-5.
7-5. Good for you. I really hope they can get to 7 wins. But some people, like Rico Beard, who has appeared on this program, has said, look, if they can get wins versus Notre Dame, Northwestern, hell, Maryland and Rutgers, then you could mitigate it and maybe get up to 8-9 wins. So those are going to be the key games. If you can get a couple of them, and hell, if you can potentially upset Michigan, keep it close versus Ohio State, then maybe, just maybe, you could have a shocking year where maybe you only have 2 or 3 losses. You never know. You could get up to 9-3 with that schedule, but most people are in the neighborhood of 6-6 to start, and that's very fair for that team.
Do you like the white helmets that Michigan State's going to rock this year?
I love them. I love the look. I think that every couple of years you need to refresh the uniform, keep it hot, and the white uniforms are bumping. I like them.
I think you go with a hunter green pant and a hunter green shirt, and you go with the white helmet. I think that rocks. I think that'll be awesome.
Now, betting line, do you think Michigan State, 17 over Bowling Green? Would you put money on Michigan State? I think it's going to be close right around that number.
Yeah, that's
a hard one.
Yeah.
It's a hard number, right?
That's a lot of points to give up, and especially with a team where we have a lot of questions and not a lot of answers. If I was a betting man, I would probably take Bowling Green plus 17.
Yeah.
I think Michigan State wins it, but
31-17 in that neighborhood.
Yeah, it's going to be a close game.
Exactly. I can't wait.
It's going to be a close line, I should say, not a close game. I think Michigan State probably wins, but maybe it's only by 16 points.
Yeah,
maybe
in that
2
neighborhood.
touchdowns.
But with the running game, with the young cats doing some things, I think Bowling Green is a perfect test to start. Then you go out and play Western Michigan without their head coach who left. PJ Fleck is no longer there, and they're going to be able to dominate. So it's going to be a good couple games to start the year, and then you start facing some tests, versus Notre Dame. Night game, I believe. So it'll be a nice touch to start the year, man. Yeah, like you said, I'm excited. It's about that time. For me, though, the 4-hour contest can be a little bit long, so I might be doing some DVRing of the college games and watching them a little bit faster so I can get through them maybe in 3 hours.
You just got to put your drinking shoes on, buddy, and just bunker down. And
the Michigan State game, I'll be in the office, but I'll be catching the updates. The Michigan game, I'll just be wrapping up the day that Saturday before I head to a birthday party. All right, let's transition and talk about the favorite NFL team that made huge news on Monday evening when it was announced Matthew Stafford's the guy. The document's been signed. We got the numbers. I was thrilled to be able to come home and get the news late in the evening, so I got a chance to opine on the Motor City Sports Rant, which you can check out every Tuesday, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. But I absolutely love the number. $27 million for the next 5 years. Absolutely perfect. We sat here, you and I, and said, if it's over 30, we're going to be gripping, we're going to be pissed. But, my opinion is well known. Everybody knows that follows me on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. They know where I stand. That number's great. I don't begrudge the man for signing it. Obviously, the Lions had to do it. Now, you ask me, is he going to live up to that contract? Hell no. I see what's good for the podcast. In 3 years, we're going to be talking about people burning Matthew Stafford's jersey. We're going to be talking about people booing him outright. We're going to be talking about a revolt, because when you make that kind of money in Detroit and you don't perform, it's going to go down. The love is there now. I respect everybody that loves Stafford, but I'm seeing it. In 3 years, when he throws that interception versus Dallas in the playoffs, you're going to have the loudest boos you have ever heard at Ford Field, because they're going to realize, oh shit, we're going to have a quarterback for damn near a decade. And this is going to be the biggest tease of all time. This is it. You guys set yourself up for it. My thinking is he'll never live up to that contract. There's going to be a revolt in 5 years when you look at it and you say, we gave this guy all this money and he's not the guy. You guys, this is Lions. This is pure Lions. I told you up front, this is the guy that's not going to lead you anywhere. He's going to be a guy, and he's benefiting because he's got everybody with the wool over their eyes. He's got the magic in that he's the biggest hustler that's ever come to town. He's ridden the fact that the Lions have had the worst quarterbacks in the history, so that when he comes in and is just slightly above mediocre, bada boom, $27 million for the next 5 years. He's going to be here for damn near 15 years and not accomplish much. 15 years. Good luck, guys. I told you. And hey, if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be wrong. But in year 9 and 10 and 11 and 12, you're expecting the trajectory to be winning the Super Bowl with that contract. You make him the highest paid guy in the history of the world. It ain't going to happen, bro. It ain't going to happen.
He's the highest paid guy for now. For now. Look,
we're living in now.
Look. The way the NFL works and the way it works for quarterbacks, it's always next guy up. So what did you want to do? Did you want to franchise him? If you franchise him, you're looking at paying him $29 million a year. All right, so then you can franchise him this year or next year. You can sit there. You can franchise him the year after that. So now you're looking at about $35 million. So then after all of that,
you know what I wish we had in sports in America, like they do in England.
What?
I wish that other teams could just outright buy our players. Meaning, I just seen a report now, Oxlade-Chamberlain from Arsenal is going over to Liverpool now for $35 million.
Right.
And the system is amazing in that you buy players, and if another team wants them, you go, hey, you got to pay this transfer fee, and you can take them. I wish the Jets would come to the Lions with a boatload of cash and say, you pay 27, here's 31 million, let us take them off your hands, and we could be like, see ya. I wish that was a system in America, but it's not, so you're stuck with them. I wish that they would have went the route of, let's see what you do this year, 1 year of franchise, and then you could say, you know what? It ain't happening. You guys see it. Boom, bada boom. If he doesn't make the playoffs or doesn't win, you're out. That's what I would have did.
Matthew Stafford's a franchise quarterback. Whether or not you believe he's a good franchise quarterback, that's to be debated, okay?
Yes.
Look, I think he's a franchise quarterback. I don't know if he'll win you a playoff game, and that's a big question, right?
So I don't understand why people can just say that and just be like, yeah, I don't know. And when you say that, I don't know, you can't write him a check for $27 million.
Yeah, you can, because look.
No, you can't.
You can, because what has he ever had to work with? Has he ever had a running back? No. Okay, he had Calvin Johnson. Okay, great. But you know what? If you look at the offenses that he was put in, they were for the most part crap until Scott Linehan showed up and sat there and tutored him a little bit.
Isn't the thinking, though, if you don't have a running game that...
And you haven't had a
quarterback
defense worth a damn. The one time you did have a defense, you got to the playoffs, and you got to the closest you ever came to actually winning a playoff game. So there's more to this than just Matt Stafford. He finally has an offensive line. Can we agree to that?
Yes, it's nice.
He finally has his running back, supposedly. I don't believe Amir Abdullah is the running back. He supposedly has his running back, the guy who's going to sit there and hopefully churn out a 100-yard game. He's only had 4 guys ever sit there and churn out a 100-yard game in his career. I mean, that's unheard of. That's absolutely unheard of. Do you know what I'm saying? That's nuts.
But with a contract that makes him in the upper echelon, what are the expectations that would make you say, okay, this is the guy? What's the expectation now for him?
He's got to go win that playoff game. He's got to get you in.
That's it?
No, he's got to get in contention to sit there and play for a Super Bowl. That's what the end game is. It's all about W's over L's. All right, look, he has Aaron Rodgers in his division. Andrew Luck wins division titles because he doesn't have another quarterback in his division who's worth a damn. All right, he's going up against arguably the best. I think the 2 best quarterbacks in the league right now, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. He's going up against the best. And yeah, you'd like him to be as good as Aaron Rodgers. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to be. When Aaron Rodgers' contract comes due, you know how much money Aaron Rodgers is going to make?
Over 100 guaranteed. Over.
Yeah,
way over.
He's going to make at least $30 to $35 million a season.
Okay, but the question is, and the way I post it to people is, okay, let's say the money, move it aside, how much he's making, and you know that he had to get that money. He earned it. It's the market. We all get all that. But the question I ask, and irregardless of length of term, let's just say he's a career Detroit Lion. Do you see Matthew Stafford leading a team on that podium holding the Lombardi Trophy?
Because I'm a Lions fan and the way I'm conditioned to think.
No, you have to think no.
But it's because it's like battered wife syndrome.
But no, you've seen 8 years of Stafford. You've seen it. You've seen the package.
I think the way Bob Quinn's building this team, it's going to be good. I think you got to give it a little bit more time. Here's the thing. Would you like to have scrapped Matt Stafford, and would you like to be the Jets? Would you like to be the Cleveland Browns?
For this year, yes.
You would like to be the Jets?
And next year.
Are you serious right now?
Yes.
You're out of your mind. The Jets are absolutely horrible.
What's going to happen?
The Cleveland Browns are absolutely horrible.
What's the plan for the Jets? Do you know? They're going to tank to get the quarterback.
They're going to tank to go get a quarterback.
That's what
There's
they're
no
doing.
guarantees that quarterback's any good.
But that's
none whatsoever.
But
look at other quarterbacks that have come out. I mean, Dak Prescott is like a one-in-a-lifetime generational type player. You know, and there's no guarantees that he's even going to be good this year.
What led to Dak Prescott's success last year? Wasn't he a patsy in that he was just inserted into a team that had
a running game and had an offensive line?
That's what I want to do. That's what I want to build.
Okay, so now you've got an offensive line. Figure out who your running back is.
They've
sat there and they've swung and they've missed for years on their running back.
Yes.
They sat there, they've traded up for Mikel LeSure, who was garbage. All right, you've got Amir Abdullah, who's got tiny little baby hands and he can't hold on to the damn football.
But Adam, just because I'm asking for the team to be built differently doesn't necessarily mean I'm wrong. And what I'm saying is I would rather have the other pieces built first, then find the quarterback, because of the fact that the Detroit Lions right now they have their quarterback. The offensive line is a little bit of a patchwork because of the fact that Taylor Decker's hurt. I would rather build up depth on both sides of the ball, offensive line, defensive line. Then you can maybe find your franchise running back. Then when you're right there ready to go, maybe you pick up a guy that's a journeyman that can be the game manager where he doesn't have to do a whole bunch of things. Right now, you're calling upon the way this team is built for Matthew Stafford to throw the hell out of that football and to dink and dunk it all around. So you're putting it on Matthew Stafford, and this is a guy who in previous years had a problem with interceptions and had a problem with his accuracy in terms of getting some of his guys killed. I look at it and I say, I don't want to go with the age-old notion of, build a team and have a superstar quarterback. I want to go with the team like the Denver Broncos, where they build up an amazing defense. Then they got an above-average offensive line. They can pluck a 38-year-old Peyton Manning in there, and he dinks and dunks and plays. Look at his stats from the Super Bowl. They weren't that good. And you won the Super Bowl because they had Von Miller, a vaunted defense, and a team that was super solid. That's the way I want it to be built. Now, can they build it this way? There is a chance for success this way. It's just not my preference. And based upon what I've seen in the last 7 years, I don't want the superstar quarterback making $30 million on the Lions. This is not Lions football. And in terms of how I see success, I see Lions football being super solid offensive line, super solid defensive line, and then you have that running back, and then you have the quarterback being the guy that just manages the game, gets you where you need to go, limits the turnovers. Is that what they're trying to do with Matthew Stafford? I don't know. I think they're counting on him heavily based upon what they've invested in these running backs. They're going to count on him to fling that ball all over the field.
Look, if this was Madden, that's great. You can do whatever you want. This is real life. And what they have in front of them is they have Matt Stafford, a franchise quarterback, probably the hardest position to sit there and try to fill in the NFL. Franchise quarterbacks just don't fall off the tree. All right, and whether you agree with that he's a good one or a bad one, that's a complete other topic. We can talk about that whenever.
Yep.
Okay, but he is a franchise quarterback. He's this franchise's quarterback. They now have an offensive line, right? I do agree that it's a little bit of a patchwork because Taylor Decker's hurt. All right, Greg Robinson is filled in decently over the preseason games that we've seen. Okay, could he be better? Sure, it's what it is at this point. You don't really have a number one wide receiver on this team. Because Golden Tate sure as hell isn't it. Marvin Jones hasn't shown enough, and Kenny Galladay's a rookie.
Okay,
right?
let's just look.
No, wait, hold on. All right, you sat there and you went on your tirade and you talked about how you wanted to build a team. I'm telling what you have in front of you. You don't have a number one running back because I don't believe Amir Abdullah is that yet. And maybe Bob Quinn believes he will be it. I don't think so. And Theo Riddick is whatever Theo Riddick is. He's a nice change of pace back. You got Dwayne Washington. All right, Zach Zenner, he's the guy who I think all the fans love, but realistically, he's not a number one running back. Flip it to the defense. That defense is getting filled in by draft picks. Okay? They've done a good job sitting there filling and bolstering that defensive line. It still needs some work because you got injuries and you're susceptible to injuries. Your linebacking core is coming along, again, filled in with draft picks. And now your secondary looks like it's getting filled in, again, with more draft picks and trusted veterans. All right, so you have a team that is building and coming together. You want to scrap everything that you got going because you're going in the right direction. You're headed north, all right? You're sitting there and you're making moves. You want to scrap all that because you don't want to pay your quarterback?
Now, here's what I'm telling you, okay? And this is the best way I can...
Get the hell out of here.
I'm going to tell you how the best way to summarize it is, okay? Matthew Stafford got all his money, and what I've seen is what I see. And that he's going to walk up the mountain, and he's going to look over that plateau, and there's the wall. And that wall will be the Lombardi Trophy, and it's going to be in a cage. Okay? And so what you got with Matthew Stafford is a guy that can walk up the mountain, can get right there, and you can stare at the Lombardi Trophy. What I'm saying is, let's just fall all the way back down to the mountain, all the way back to the bottom, and re-hike. And then
start all over?
With the notion that the next guy...
So you want to be the Jags?
No, because the notion is that Bob Quinn's job, if that was the case, would be then to slide back down the mountain, reclimb it, and then with the guy that can walk up to that cage, open it, hold the Lombardi Trophy year after year, then go back down, go back up and do it. With Matthew Stafford, you're going to be staring at that Lombardi Trophy, wishing that you could have it. I want a situation where if it's not Matthew Stafford, you got to go somewhere else. And I think somebody else with a different team and a different philosophy where you pay $12 million to a star running back, which is, I think, what Le'Veon Bell is in that neighborhood of $11 to $12 million. You pay that, go with a running game, pay a boatload of money for a defense that can be outstanding, and then you got a quarterback that can just manage the game where you can go back up the mountain, open the gate, hold the Lombardi Trophy. You plateau with Matthew Stafford. That's my opinion. And so when I ask that, do you think he's going to win the Super Bowl? Most people are going to say no. They're not going to say yeah. I say, okay, if that's the case, if you say no regarding what you think the ceiling is for Stafford, then okay, it's just going to be, what's just going to happen now is in 5 years when we're at episode 400, we're going to say, oh, Matthew Stafford didn't do the job. We got to start over. I said you could do it now.
Tell me which one of these guys, if any, are a franchise quarterback or somebody you can build around. I'm going back to 2014's NFL draft, all right? Just to prove my point that franchise quarterbacks don't fall off trees. Johnny Manziel.
Is he still in the league? No.
Exactly. Blake Bortles. He's on his way out, too. Mm-hmm. Teddy Bridgewater, his knee exploded. Mm-hmm. He might not ever play again. They say he's progressing well, but let's check back in a few years. Derek Carr. You kind of hit on that.
Derek Carr was a hit.
Derek Carr is a very good quarterback. Mm-hmm. He has a very good offensive line. He had a very good running game. He had very good wide receivers. I think he stepped into all of that.
Actually, in the end, we're really not debating Matthew Stafford. We're debating the importance of the quarterback
position. And it's the most important position in the NFL.
Peyton Manning won at 38 with 2 screws in his neck, and he didn't do shit in the Super Bowl.
Right, he was absolute garbage.
We could do that. We can roll that way.
Getting back, Jimmy Garoppolo. You're not really sure what you got. He looks promising. Logan Thomas. Who? Tom Savage. You're going to see what he is this year with Houston. Aaron Murray. Who? What? AJ McCarron. Yeah, he's filled in nicely when Andy Dalton's been broken, but Zach Mettenberg. Is he still in the league? Where? David Fales. No. Keith Wenning. No. Taj Boyd. Taj Boyd's still playing? Does anybody know? Can we put him on? Can we put his face on a milk carton? You wouldn't even know him if you seen him. Garrett Gilbert. Who? I don't know who that is. And that's it for quarterbacks. That's 2014. These are guys who should be making an impact now, 3 years into the league. There is one guy with Derek Carr. Teddy Bridgewater, his leg might be dead. All right, so it's basically it's Derek Carr is it. And Derek Carr walked into a really nice situation with a head coach who understood what he had. They sat there, they built his offensive line, they gave him a running back who knew what he was doing, and then they went out and they got rid of him, and they brought in a veteran running back who knows what he's doing, and they given him wide receivers.
Now imagine paying $27 million each for all those guys that you just named.
And
That's what you did.
And Derek Carr just cashed in. Yeah. Derek Carr just made $25 million.
My point is, you just paid a quarterback in that category $27 million a year to play your quarterback for your team.
But that's what the only quarterback on this list who's worth a damn. He just made $25 million. You had to get more because the way the NFL works, the next player up always makes more. It's the system that's broken. It's not the fact that it's your quarterback. It's the system.
Well, if you're an up-and-coming thinker, you don't have to follow the system. You don't have to follow along this way.
Well, good luck going and trying to find a quarterback or somebody who's worth a damn. I just named 10 guys, and only one of them is worth a shit.
Maybe because of the fact that everyone else is wrong and they're not building teams correctly. Maybe they're investing their money wrong.
You're always the smartest guy in the room.
I am the smartest guy in the room in that I'm saying that Andy Dalton this year, I see on his salary sheet, $15.7 million. That's a great number. I like Stafford's salary right in the neighborhood of $16 to $18 million a year. That number is perfect for what he delivers. You want to pay him $27 million. Now I'm asking, this guy's got to win a Super Bowl, and I don't see him anywhere near close. And so I'm saying that system doesn't, in the end, get me the Super Bowl. So my system, I think, puts me a little bit ahead in terms of the probabilities. Now, Stafford, I would give him a 65% chance of being successful.
Let me know what let me know what Andy Dalton hauls in 3 years when his contract's up. In 2021, let me know what he's hauling in. Because I'm telling you right now, if he's still in the league, it's going to be north of $35 million.
Yeah, and Adam, all you're saying is that in terms of what these general managers are doing, potentially speaking, that at some point, a general manager is going to say, oh, you know what? Maybe I can get the best quarterback of all time and get him to take $16 million a year, and I can sprinkle some more money around and have a team that's in the Super Bowl every year. Maybe that team would be the New England Patriots. So I would be inclined to just follow what they do, which is, hey, I don't need my quarterback making $27 million, and he's overproducing his contract.
But that's Tom Brady. Tom Brady comes in and says, I want to take less. If Tom Brady wants, Tom Brady could go to Robert Kraft and say, hey, pay me. And you know what Robert Kraft's going to do? He's going to be like, here's my checkbook. I'll pay you whatever you want.
And so that's what I think. If Matthew Stafford wanted that ring, that's what he would have did. He would have said, get me a running back, get me an offensive line. He doesn't have to make $27 million a year.
At some point, Tom Brady cashed in too and made the most out of everybody. And then you know what he did? He restructured his contract 4 times to where he's making the 15th most in the NFL right now at $20.5 million.
All I'm doing is telling you what we're going to be talking about in 5 years. And I'll be sitting here again, like I said with Miggy, in terms of the fact that you should have been at the forefront of an idea instead of reacting. And I'm saying, and part of the reason why there's so much turnover in the league with general managers, head coaches, is they're building wrong. They're paying the quarterback way too much money, and they need to build where it's proper, like the Cowboys did. Build up the best offensive line where you can take a rookie. And why is it that Dak Prescott is an outlier? He had a good year because of the fact he had an offensive line.
They got so lucky with Dak Prescott.
It's not luck.
Yeah, it is, because they didn't even want Dak Prescott. They were trying to trade up for Connor Cook, and Connor Cook got drafted. So you know what? They needed a quarterback. Dak Prescott was there. They took him. They got lucky. Same thing with New England and Tom Brady. They got lucky. They hit on a 6th-round draft pick.
Connor Cook.
You go back to when Tom Brady was drafted, and you mean to tell me that you knew Tom Brady was going to be the greatest quarterback of all time?
No.
You go back to when Dak Prescott was drafted. You mean to tell me that they knew what they got with Dak Prescott? They had no idea. The only reason they got lucky with Dak Prescott is because freaking Tony Romo sat there and his back exploded again.
But I'm saying if you had Connor Cook on the Dallas Cowboys last year, he looks, and we're talking about Connor Cook being the man. And what I'm saying is...
Connor Cook wouldn't be.
No, he would be.
He wouldn't.
He would be. That's why you're saying Dak Prescott is benefiting from being on a team with a solid offensive line.
Connor Cook sat there and filled in for Derek Carr when Derek Carr went down with his bum-busted leg, okay? And how did he look in the playoffs? He looked like absolute garbage. And you know what? I can argue with you that Oakland's offensive line is better than Dallas's offensive line.
I thought Dallas was pretty good.
And look, Dallas Dallas has a really good running back who's going to be sidelined for the first 8 weeks of this season. So let's see how good Dak Prescott is this season.
Exactly. And so what I say is I would rather have a system where many people believe that, hey, why are people high on Garoppolo? Because there's a good coach and a good system in place. Why I want a system in place, and I think I've said this before on the podcast, I would rather have a system in place on offense and defense and have a plug-and-play quarterback.
While I agree with you, franchise quarterbacks don't fall off trees. I've just named 12 different guys, and out of those 12 guys, there is one guy who's a franchise quarterback in Derek Carr who just cashed in, who Matt Stafford just got a contract slightly higher than his, okay? And Jimmy Garoppolo, who might be promising. We're not real sure what he is because he's never played. He's played, what, 2 full NFL games in the regular season? Two games.
And I put Stafford in that list. And you just overpaid for him. So that's where we disagree. In that, in the end, you are paying $27 million for a guy that's not going to get you the Super Bowl. That's what's happening.
You're upset at the system, and
yes.
that's fine. I agree with you. I think the system is broken.
Yes.
But when franchise quarterbacks come due, the way the NFL works is you pay them. And look, what Matt Stafford got is very reasonable. It's a reasonable contract. And look, if Matt Stafford really wanted to, he could have held you over a barrel, and he could have asked for $29 million a season to start. And he didn't. He said, you know what, I'll take 27, let's go and work. And what he did was he helped the organization because now he freed up the franchise tag, so if they have to franchise Ziggy Ansah, they can. Also, he sat there and he saved $5 million against the cap this year and going into next year. So what he did was he helped the organization. You pay your damn quarterbacks. When you get a franchise quarterback, I don't care how good he is, you pay his ass. Look, Andy Dalton's going to be coming up in a few years. You're going to pay his ass. And I don't think Andy Dalton's very good, right? Matt Ryan going into last year, would you have said Matt Ryan's a franchise quarterback?
Yeah.
Going into last year, you said, man,
yes.
No.
Yes.
No. He was absolutely, dude, his stats were worse than Matt Stafford's.
No, you see his arm, you see the potential, you see the work ethic, you just needed more around him.
It's the same shit as Matt Stafford.
No.
They're the same guy.
No, they're not.
They're the same exact guy, except Matt Ryan's got Julio Jones and he's got Devonta Freeman and maybe Tevin Coleman.
Okay.
It's the same guy.
That's disagreement.
You just made my argument for me.
Stafford,
you pay the guys what you do.
Matt Stafford is not the same as Matt Ryan.
They're the same exact guy.
Okay, we disagree.
Hold up. Give me one. Go ahead. Talk.
No, I'm going to say that.
I'm going to pull up stats and I'm going to show you how they're the same guy.
Okay, I'm going to show you that in 3 years you'll be coming back and saying, you know what, you were right. Everyone's turning on Stafford. I'm going to be like, oh, this is old news. I already told you this.
Oh, I already know that the fans are going to turn on him. It's what they do.
Why? Why are they going to turn on him?
It's what Detroit fans do.
Why are they going to turn on him? Because in essence, they're going to realize, oh shoot, we're paying a guy $27 million when we could have paid an average quarterback $15 million.
Dude, in 3 years, his contract is going to be middle of the pack. It's just the way it's going to work out.
I didn't say the numbers are bad. I didn't say that he didn't deserve to get the money. I'm not saying that at all. All I'm asking is, what's the path to unlock the key for this organization that's not done shit since the 50s to win it all? And my thinking is it's not to pay a quarterback that much money. Of course, Stafford deserves it. This guy is the best of the Lions quarterbacks that has ever played. We give him all that due. But then I'm still asking the question, does he take us up the mountain with his skill set and with the ability to build around him? Does that magically unlock the key for us to get the Lombardi Trophy? I say no. And I say that you build it a little bit more creatively in a little bit more of a different fashion in building other assets that can help you potentially in what I've seen. Either you build on the offense or you build on the defense. And, you look at what the Falcons were able to do. They built up a supremely awesome offensive line with 2 or 3 amazing running backs, and you handled your business. That's one way. The Denver Broncos built it through defense. The Ravens have done it through defense. The Pittsburgh Steelers have done it through defense and an amazing running game. So the Lions are doing it in a different way this go around, with the idea being, let's pay a superstar quarterback and let's see if we can build, through the draft other positions. But can we get that star running back with Matthew Stafford making that money? We'll see. Can we keep Ziggy Ansah when he's due? Can we keep a Jared Davis when he's going to want his money? Let's see who's going to be cut because of the fact that there's a cap. So that's all I'm saying is I just disagree with how the Lions are building to win a Super Bowl. I don't think it's going to result in the Super Bowl. I could be wrong. I'm just saying that's my opinion is I know what's won Super Bowls. Defense. I know what I've seen that's won Super Bowls. Supremely awesome offensive line, defensive line, and running games. Quarterbacks, they do the job. They're important. But I think when it comes down to asking the question, are the important traits that are needed to win the Super Bowl, does Stafford have them? My answer is no. And that's just based on what I've seen in 8 years. I could be wrong. He could get better. They could build more around him, and he's that game manager, and he does the job, and he and then all of a sudden manages the game and takes us through the playoffs. But up until this point, everyone's hoping. I'm just going by what I've seen.
So I'm going to give you some. Do you like QBR or do you like passer rating better?
Hit me with both, whatever you want.
Okay, so QBR, mind you, Matt Ryan's got one more year than Matt Stafford has in the
experience.
league.
Okay.
So QBR for their rookie year, Matt Ryan was a 70.5. Following that, it was a 67.8. After that, it was a 72, 72.5, 73.8, 67.9, 71.9, 72.5 for 2015. I'm not going to give you 2016 because Matt Ryan all of a sudden came out of nowhere.
Okay.
All right. Matt Stafford, 40.5, 54.0, 65.5, 58.5, 58.9, 51.
Is that less
61?
than?
It is. It is. But wait,
so that's not the same.
Wait.
So that's not the same.
So, all right, let's look at passer rating. 87.7 for Matt Ryan, 80.9, 91, 92.2, 99.1, 89.6, 93.9, 89 even. All right. Matt Stafford, 61, 91.3, 97.2, 79.8, 84.2, 85.7, 97. So at that point, right there, if you go by passer rating, Matt Stafford's a better quarterback. All right?
Okay.
So, I mean, total QBR, it's a little bit of a different stat, takes different algorithms in. But if you go by passer rating, Matt Stafford's a better quarterback than Matt Ryan. Then Matt Ryan decided to play quarterback, and he sat there and turned it on. And he was like 117, while Matt Stafford was a 93.3. That was the season with his bum finger for like the last 4 or 5 games, and he was just turning the ball over left and right, couldn't throw a touchdown.
See, as we're watching the herd on the television, they're discussing it right now as well. Does Matthew Stafford deserve to be the highest paid guy? Everyone's debating it. Everyone's looking at it. We take two different sides of the coin, and we just got to wait and see now how this 2017 season progresses. I'll be sitting on my high horse already with the answer. You'll be hoping that it turns around, and in 5 years, you'll again come to me and say, you know what, you were right. You were ahead of the game like I was with the Mickey situation. Now, all I can ask you is, what did you think of the third preseason game where the team that everybody strives to be, the New England Patriots, show up and they just kick your ass? It was an amazing thing to see.
Dude, when they want to play, they play. And there's nothing you could do. It looked like the Lions were stuck in cement.
It was unbelievable. Was it the Patriots kicking their ass, or is this what the Lions bring to the table in key games where they don't look like they have a clue what they're doing?
I
think it's the Patriots that do that to you.
It's a really hard question to answer because it really seemed like the Lions just didn't show up. But I think that was more to do with the Patriots and what the Patriots were throwing at them. So I don't know the exact answer. I think that the Patriots just bring another level. Maybe it's just the intensity where even they play their preseason games like it's the regular season. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, the Pats are there to do a job. They're working on whatever they got to work on. You know they didn't game plan for it. They just went out there and they just ran their offense. You know what I'm saying? They just ran their base defense. And they sat there and it looked like they just outworked the Lions. It just looked like the Lions had totally checked out. Once they were down 14-0,
that was it.
They were breathing hard. They couldn't get out of their own way. It was absolutely
You know what
brutal.
I did not want to have happen? You got Chris Spielman highlighting Jared Davis. Oh, this guy's slow. He should be here. Oh, this guy needs to be picked apart here. Oh, Jared's got to do this. Jared's got to do that. Chris Spielman went on a tirade
he did
calling
not
out.
have a good game.
No, he did not. But Chris Spielman was like highlighting it like he needs to get in the hole faster. He needs to watch this. He needs to watch that. And in the end, what you recognize was the Patriots were just like, oh, we're going to pick on this guy. No doubt about it. And they went with that plan, and they executed
They picked on Jared Davis, and they picked on Evan Lawson.
Isn't that crazy?
And they sat there, and they exploited both those guys. And they
to a
jumped out.
T.
Yep, jumped out to a 24-0 lead.
But what I don't like when I watch the Lions is these are the things that we would come to expect when the Lions play a good team. I didn't expect them to go out there and win. I didn't expect them to go out there and compete toe-to-toe with the Patriots. All I'm asking is, don't turn the ball over. Golden Tate, hold on to the football. Matthew Stafford, just get the team up and down the field. You don't have to score touchdowns, but look proficient. Don't wait until the second half when New England puts in their scrubs and the second team defensive unit to do some things. Do some things versus New England. Maybe throw a Hail Mary. Maybe do something different, not with all the holding penalties, not without all the penalties that make you look inept. And that's what happens when the Lions go up against stellar competition. They don't look like they belong. And that's where we're not at the level yet where we expect them to win. All we're asking is, when it's the dress rehearsal and you're supposed to go out there and look organized and you're supposed to look like a certain football team, don't go out there and fall behind 24-0. keep it to like 10-0, where you make some plays, you cause a turnover maybe here and there, and you keep it within reason, 13-0, 13-3. Not go out there and have Tom Brady drop dimes all over you and have all the players look like that they don't belong on the field. And it's just unfortunate that the Lions look like that. And it is shocking. It's nothing new. We've seen it before. I mean, I witnessed it in person when the Rams came to town on a Monday night and just made the Lions look silly. And that was the year that Mariucci got fired. But at the same time, this is what it is with the Lions. I do think, though, game 1 versus Arizona, it's going to be a slobber knocker. And whoever makes the key plays late is going to win the game. It's going to be a great test, that first game, because Arizona is going to be well prepared and they're going to have their shit together coming into Ford Field. It's going to be a fun game 1. And it's going to set the tone, game 1. If game 1 comes and goes and it's a loss, it's about to be a long-ass year.
The one thing I realized watching that New England preseason game was this team misses Ziggy Ansah. They miss his leadership. They miss him being able to get off the edge and sit there and put pressure on the quarterback. And look, what they had going on was good enough, but they don't have that leadership from anybody out there. And I don't know if that's more of an indictment on this coaching staff or if it's an indictment on this team, or maybe they're just really young right now. And that could just be what it is. They need that veteran guy. But they do miss Ziggy Ansah. They miss him sitting there and forcing plays and sitting there and helping these guys. Because there was a time there when just New England was just gassing them. And look, if Ziggy Ansah's out there, he's going to get in their face. He's going to sit there and challenge them. There was nobody challenging anybody. Nobody. And next thing you know, it's 24-0. And like you said, at that point, New England's like, all right, cool, we're in cruise control. You know what I'm saying? Jimmy Garoppolo goes out there, he handles the ball well, and that's basically all it was. It was all she wrote, and it was over. This team needs Ziggy Ansah on the field. Hopefully he comes back. Hopefully we don't have a DeAndre Levy situation where Ziggy's going to miss all the preseason. He'll sit there, play game 1, and then you know what? You can write him off because his career's done.
What one word would you use now to describe your expectations for the Detroit Lions 2017?
I'm hopeful. Hopeful because Matt Stafford's contract's done. You're going to look, Amir Abdullah is supposed to be healthy. You're going to actually get to see what this offensive line and what this offense could be or should be. And I like the additions that they've made on defense. I think they've got some work to do as far as depth along their defensive line, but I like that linebacking core. I think they've got enough pieces in that linebacking core, and I like that secondary. So I'm hopeful that this team does not embarrass itself and it can sit there and maybe give you a 9-7 season. I mean, we're going to break it down next week, but I'm hoping right now, without looking at the schedule too in depth, I'm hopeful that it's a 9-7 season and you're in playoff contention.
I'm panicking. I think that with injuries, I think that we were excited with the emergence of Jared Davis and Kenny Galladay, and now with a couple of weeks past, the way the Lions are, they've taken a step back. They haven't continued to emerge, and they haven't continued to kind of allow us to feel the benefits of a hype train, but that's okay. That's what the Lions do. This is what we've come to expect. I'm panicking that this could be the year where all the people that said 3, 4, 5 wins, it might come true, and especially with the fact that if you just go by Lions lore, everybody's on a super high that we got the franchise quarterback, and now you got to deliver. Can the Lions do that? This could be a classic year where you now shift the focus away from blaming Matthew Stafford, and then everyone's just going to be pissed off at Jim Caldwell, and then everyone's going to have their scapegoat, who we already knew wasn't the guy already. But I think that people that support Stafford, if the Lions have a bad year, then they're just going to turn their attention to hating on Jim Caldwell, and they'll be happy. Oh, we got a new coach. When in the end, you got to look at who's making the big bucks and who is responsible as well as the head coach, and that's the quarterback. So I'm panicking, but they can turn that all around game 1 by destroying Arizona game 1. That'd be awesome.
I just need David Johnson to go off.
No doubt about it. All right, let's take a quick timeout. Come right back with the Doc and Jock Wrestling Report to close out this podcast.
Help my fantasy squad.
If you've enjoyed this discussion and you enjoy the podcast that you hear each and every day on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, all we ask, visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's where you can go to find out who's hosting what show when, and you can help us to keep this train going full speed ahead. How, do you ask? Click through the website. You know, if you want to take care of your online shopping needs, click through that Amazon banner. If you want to buy any tickets to any sporting event, go check out the ticket section. That's all we ask, is check out our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We wouldn't be able to have half a dozen sponsors roll out podcasts each and every day, have the fun fan interaction that we have, if it wasn't for your support. and we greatly appreciate those that follow us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. Thanks to everybody that's been keeping this train going. Visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Cuz, you know what's one way to piss off the doc?
What's that?
When you got a feature attraction and you got a 2-hour program and you let the feature attraction go out there for all of 7 minutes. Get the hell out of here. I know you've championed and you've said it here many times that the writing is lazy, but to feature AJ Styles for 7 minutes and to have a guy in Ty Dillinger who's a 10, who features the 10 gimmick, have him come out there and to squash him and to introduce the angle with Baron Corbin that way was probably the worst moment in wrestling this week. I was pissed. I'm like, you know what? You don't need to have this hodgepodge of matches, promos, and interference. If you want to kick off an angle with Baron Corbin and AJ Styles, dude, AJ can rock the microphone. Let him go out there and talk for 10 minutes. You have then Baron Corbin come out and say some things, and you kick off the angle. But to have Ty Dillinger come out, answer the U.S. Open Challenge, and you have Baron Corbin hit him, and then he's on the, doing the announcing, and then he comes in, and the match is only 6 minutes, and it's atrocious. That was, in my mind, really sloppy. I didn't like it. And in my opinion, if you have AJ Styles, automatically you got 15 minutes written. Just feature the man. I know the man's 40 years old, and that's the way you can keep his work night short, is to have an 8-minute match, but you can move along angles. You can do things with him outside of him squashing a guy that has some potential. I thought that if there was going to ever be a match between Dillinger and AJ Styles, it would be better than what the hell we saw on SmackDown. That was bad.
I didn't think the match between them was poor. I think the writing was bad, and like you said,
it's not how you do it.
No, it's not. And I like Ty Dillinger. I think he brings a lot to the table. I think he's one of those guys who's underutilized on SmackDown. In the WWE universe, period, he's underutilized.
And for me, SmackDown was just a hodgepodge of just stuff that was there. Nothing really spectacular. That's what it was.
The last couple weeks have just been, okay, let's just get to whatever the next pay-per-view is. Like, let's just throw things at the wall and let's just kind of get things going. I mean, honestly, on SmackDown, the best part of the entire night was Natty's line sitting there basically comparing Carmella to Baron Corbin.
Exactly.
Like, you're the next Baron Corbin. I thought that was great.
That was great.
But look, I don't know if they still have belief in Baron Corbin and what they want to do with him, or if there's some shine that's been taken off of him and they're trying to either bury him or they're just trying to dial him back a little bit. I don't like the usage of Baron Corbin right now. I don't think it's very good. I'm intrigued by what Dolph Ziggler is going to be, but I don't believe there's a whole lot that's left with him. I mean, I think this company has totally lost faith in Dolph Ziggler. I don't think they like him. Honestly, the main attraction for SmackDown is Bobby Roode.
Amazing. But do you think, though, people are questioning the use of Bobby Roode in that I feel like he's a better heel, and he's kind of come out now as a face.
He is. He's a better heel.
Isn't he a much better heel? So
yeah.
why? Yeah, I think that you're misusing him right now.
Well, again, welcome to WWE, where we try to fit square pegs in round holes. That's what it is. And look, Bobby Roode will have a turn at some point, but for right now, they're going to get the usage out of the song. They're going to get the usage out of the gimmick, and then they'll sit there and they'll flip him. Look, Bobby Roode's going to be Dolph Ziggler's coming in, and they're gonna end up getting into a feud.
Oh, that's
There'll
good.
be Ziggler versus Roode here probably next week. That's what it's going to be.
Ooh, nice.
I'm interested to see what this new Dolph Ziggler is.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what that's going to be. But yeah, you're right, man. It was a hodgepodge of just bad matches. I mean, Bobby Roode comes out and he dismantles Mike Kanellis. I don't know why Mike Kanellis is on the main roster right now. I think they thought that they were getting a guy who was in better shape. I know that that's been critiqued. The guy can't basically give you a 20-minute match because he's out of shape. And if you look at his body, he does look a little soft, does look a little doughy. But
it would lead you to believe that he should be on NXT, right?
He should be. But somehow they were able to work that out. And look, if Mike and Maria would have went to NXT and sat there and worked their way up, I think they'd be much better off for it. You know, you look at a guy like Adam Cole. Adam Cole wanted to go to NXT. He wants that experience to be able to sit there and get in on the ground floor and work his way up. And you look at a guy like a Bobby Roode. You look at a guy like a Nakamura. They sat there and they excelled. Kevin Owens. You know, Sami Zayn's not really a good example because he's underutilized. But these guys went to NXT and they sat there and they elevated their level. And now they bring it to the main roster because there is a small segment of fans who watch NXT. So when it crosses over to SmackDown or when it crosses over to Raw, it's still there, and it's still real, damn it. You know what I'm saying?
In terms of the main event picture, I don't like the fact, like we said, it's recycled.
It is.
I mean, you got Randy Orton taking on Nakamura for the chance next week to fight Jinder Mahal. So the winner of that matchup, Nakamura, Randy Orton's going to get another title match.
Why is Randy Orton still in the picture?
Nobody understands what's going on here.
The one thing I do like, Randy Orton turned heel. That was his heel turn.
That was
and
good.
He wanted to turn heel.
Yes, that was
He
good.
wanted to be a heel. He likes being a heel more than he likes being a face.
It's not a problem. I like the way it all developed, but
why?
I think if you want to go and you want to establish new feuds, I love the fact that Rusev called out Jinder Mahal and was like, look, we're not going to do a ride-along together. We're going to have a match, and I want to go for your title. I think that would have been nice to begin a program with them instead of having the typical, we're going to have another vignette. We're going to have another promo and set up another tag team main event. I think that would have been nice where you have Jinder Mahal come out and then boom, you have Rusev and he stakes his claim. And I think that would be a great matchup for Hell in a Cell where you have Jinder Mahal versus Rusev. I think that's a great angle to go with instead of potentially Randy Orton and Nakamura. I think Nakamura is still hot. You could have him feud with Randy Orton for a minute and extend that program out back and forth a little bit. But it just seems like the programs that they're staying with aren't the best ones when you can establish newer ones that are much more fresh, like what they did on Monday Night Raw. That was so awesome to see Jeff Hardy enter into the Intercontinental title picture. That was awesome because having Jeff Hardy win that Battle Royal served two purposes. One, we all recall how Jeff Hardy was a singles competitor and had some success. And two, it now kind of plants the seed a little bit that, maybe the Hardy Boys are going to go their separate ways. Maybe the Awoken characters are going to start coming in where it's Broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero should Jeff Hardy go on a singles run and become the Intercontinental Champion. So it kind of does a great job, and it kind of, the Battle Royal wasn't that great in terms of the wrestling, but it was really cool to see Finn Balor and the club in the same ring together. It was really cool.
Yeah, see, I thought the Battle Royal wasn't very good until it got pared down. I did pop really hard when Gallows and Anderson almost two-sweeted Finn Balor. Like, I jumped out of my seat and I was screaming. My face was beat red. I was so pumped and ready for it. It didn't happen.
Right.
But I did like Finn challenging Jeff, and then Finn ends up losing because why?
Yeah.
I don't understand what why are we still doing this?
Yep.
What's going on here?
But I think we talked about it in that I think they want to slow down Finn Balor just a touch to let people see what he's about, let him have some of these angles. But
why do we have to have Bray Wyatt come out and do his little throw the guy out, he disappears? Why do we have to have this?
The feud's not over.
Yeah, but it is. Why do we have to? I'm so tired of it. It's over. I don't need to see it no more.
What's the proper length of a feud in your mind? 6 weeks?
Depending on how the feud's going. I feel like a lot of this is lazy writing. So, yeah, 6 weeks is more than enough time. I'm usually spent on a feud after 4 weeks.
Yeah.
It builds to the pay-per-view, and then let's just be done with it. Because what they do is they give you so much during their Mondays and Tuesday night matches that by the time you get to the pay-per-view, which is usually 4 weeks away, I'm over it. I'm done with it.
That's the biggest issue is that they're extending out some feuds a little bit too long. And in this ADD society, we just want a feud a month.
Well, yeah.
A feud a month.
That's really all you need.
12 feuds.
Unless you do good writing. If you have good writing, you let these guys go out there, you let them cut good promos on each other. Like, I'm really interested in the John Cena-Roman Reigns feud right now. I thought the way that they executed their promos were outstanding. I thought the way John Cena called Roman Reigns to the mat and basically pulled his flamethrower out and set him ablaze.
That was awesome.
I thought it was great.
I'm still here because you can't do your job.
I thought it was great. He was like, it's a promo, big boy. You're 5 years in. You need to learn how to do this. I thought it was great. I thought it was outstanding.
But do you think that messed up Roman because it looked like he forgot his lines?
He got flustered.
Yeah, he got messed
flustered.
Up. That was awesome. It was like you looked like he was looking for his words. Like, oh shit! But it was quite the feud to see, and I think it's really good for Roman Reigns to be in the ring with John Cena. It was nice.
What I don't like though is right after that they had Gallows and Anderson come out and interrupt all of it.
No sense, right?
No, you needed John Cena to throw the mic down and walk out.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? Or let them sit there and get into a little dust up. But you don't need to sit there and you don't need to preview the match every single week.
Yeah.
You see it with the tag teams, right? You look at SmackDown. On SmackDown, you've got the New Day fighting the Usos, right? You have them fighting the Usos every single week. Why do I need to see this now for 6 weeks? You gave me the blow-off at the pay-per-view. I don't need to see it again. You don't need to recycle the same material.
See, and that's the biggest thing that we complain about is the mid-card guys they don't even deserve to be in the mid-card. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And so that's why you stick with feuds maybe 8 weeks, 12 weeks.
50-50 booking gets nobody over,
Yeah.
right? And you get a lot of 50-50 booking. You get guys who sit there and they just trade wins. You need to figure out who your stars are, elevate them, put them into feuds with guys, and let them go back and forth for a little bit. And you know what? You don't need to see everybody every single week.
Right.
You know, you can revolve it every other week.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to see John Cena. I don't need to see Roman Reigns this upcoming week. I would love to, because I think it's really good right now.
Yes.
But keep me wanting more. Have me come back the following week.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Right now, it's been a hodgepodge of them tagging and John Cena at the end clapping for him and giving him his kudos, because they want Roman Reigns to get the rub from John Cena. Okay, cool. You know how this is going to end on the pay-per-view at No Mercy? I can tell you exactly how it's going to end. Reigns is going to defeat Cena.
Yeah.
And then Cena's going to ride off into the sunset to go make Transformers.
You got it.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
And then the other angle I think I'm starting to like is I like Sasha winning the title and losing it the next time. I think that's great. I think it's something to talk about. I don't think it reflects anything on what they think about Sasha. She's a great wrestler, a wrestler that doesn't even need the belt to be relevant. I don't think it signifies WWE's confidence in her. I think Alexa Bliss is a much more worthy champion, and to have that turn with Nia Jax was awesome.
See, I think what happened is they wrote themselves into a corner there. They put the belt on Sasha Banks. They're like, okay, well, how do we get it off her so we can have Alexa and Nia Jax feud? Okay, let's have her drop it. So I think you're right. I don't think it necessarily says anything about their confidence in her, because I think she's a great performer. I think she does a good enough job without the belt. She's that over with the crowd. But again, I think it's something silly where she gets the belt and then she drops the belt. She gets the belt, then she drops the belt. This is like the whole thing with Charlotte. When her and Charlotte were going back and forth trading the belt like every single week, it was silly because you can't establish a run. You can't establish any type of a role as a champion. So, look, you put it on Alexa. Now Alexa and Nia Jax are going to feud. What'll probably happen is Nia Jax will end up winning the belt, and then Asuka will come in.
So no doubt about it.
And then you'll have a champion who's going to probably have a 6-month run there.
Raw won the week, correct? In terms of the ranking, yep.
I would say so.
We'll start ranking it right now. Raw is 1-0 in our ranking of Raw versus SmackDown. I liked Raw much better. I thought it had a lot more angles, a lot more surprises. I thought that Raw was a little bit more entertaining in terms of the star power, in terms of who came out. And obviously when you have John Cena and Roman Reigns in a ring with Kurt Angle and they're doing the contract signing, it was just a lot better show, in my opinion. So Raw gets a tally for the best show of the week.
Yep, I got it marked down. We'll keep tabs on it.
News and notes, hit me up.
Again, I think John Cena, Roman Reigns, thought it was great. That was totally scripted. It was not a shoot. They played it off like a shoot. I thought they did a great job there. Asuka's probably going to be going to Raw in the next 4 to 6 weeks, so
nice.
expect to see her once her collarbone heals. Samoa Joe, everything kind of got flipped around here because it was supposed to be Samoa Joe feuding with John Cena, Roman Reigns feuding with The Miz. Roman Reigns was supposed to win the Intercontinental belt. They sat there that scrap all that because Samoa Joe hurt his knee on Saturday when he was in a match with John Cena. He's going to be out about 4 weeks. So that's why we've got the rush for the Roman Reigns-John Cena match at No Mercy. And that's why we also have the Battle Royal that took place on Monday. Also, it came out that Shinsuke Nakamura turned down a UFC fight in 2005. So that was interesting. Sexy Star. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her or not. She's on Lucha Underground. She sat there and she basically shot on Rosemary, who used to be the GFW champ in TNA or Impact or whatever it's called now. There was AAA's Triple Mania, which is essentially their WrestleMania. Sexy Star put her in an arm bar and dislocated her elbow. A lot of wrestlers have come out and basically bashed Sexy Star for this. To give you a little bit of context, Sexy Star felt like it was a fatal 4-way match. Sexy Star felt like the other 3 competitors were shooting on her. There was some tension in the locker room before they went out to the ring, so it just kind of boiled over, and Rosemary ended up dislocating her elbow with the in the arm bar. Ric Flair is doing much better. His son said that he should be starting physical therapy very soon, so that's good news there. And Xavier Woods hurt his knee Monday night at a house show. He went to go put one of the Usos in a DDT, and as he went to go put him in the DDT, his knee buckled on him. He did a backwards somersault to roll out of the ring, and he basically went to the mat, and the match ended up concluding. Everybody kind of came over to check on him. You've seen the referee in the video give the dreaded double X, and Xavier Woods is going to be sidelined for a little bit.
No doubt. And then the funniest moment of the week, I know you popped for it. I texted you about it. Who showed up in the ring on Raw?
Pelvis Wesley, bro. Dude, did you check it out?
I saw some of it, yes.
Is it not funny?
Well worth it. And then to see that, I'm like, Good timing, cuz. Good timing to see Pelvis Wesley show up in the ring. I think it's funny to do that too. A little bit of a surprise in a 3-hour show. To have that happen, I think in Memphis was pretty funny. And then I like Brock Lesnar going, Suplex City, bitch, was pretty good.
How did you like Jerry the King coming back for a special guest appearance? I thought that was awesome, especially in Memphis.
Especially in Memphis, to see Jerry the King Lawler. It's his hometown, his turf, so to see him. But when I think Corey Graves maybe rubbed it in a little bit too much when Nia Jax dropped Alexa Bliss. Jerry the King, I think, was like, what's happening? And then Corey Graves went right to the pain. He's like, open your eyes. What do you think you're seeing? This is a turn and da-da-da-da. But I do like Jerry the King Lawler, but I like him more where he's just announcing in pre-shows and doing some more analysis than commentary. I love Corey Graves. I think he's a budding star, and look out for him because he's quickly rising in terms of his cadence, his passion, and when that turn happened, I think he was the perfect guy to announce when Nia Jax turned on Alexa Bliss. His passion comes through in his voice is really exciting. I hope they do more with that guy. It's a good cat.
For a guy who was a wrestler, had really bad concussions, and had to leave the sport way too early, he has excelled exceptionally in the booth. You go back and you watch some of his early NXT work, and now you look at what he's doing on Raw. He's outstanding. He does a great job in the booth.
No doubt about it. Great podcast, sir. I always look forward to longer podcasts when we get a chance to talk about a lot of different things. So an hour 45 is good.
I was going to say, did we hit 2 hours? I know I was shooting for 2 hours when I was putting the rundown together.
No, an hour 45 is just enough for the supporters to listen to our verbal warfare. Good stuff, sir.
Yeah, very good show. I appreciate this one. This was a good time. I don't know how you found me guilty, but you found me guilty.
Guilty as charged. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski. Thanks for sitting through an amazing podcast. Episode 212 in the books. Adam, great job. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. We'll see everybody next week. We keep rolling along, baby.
Go Lions. Matt Stafford, validate my opinions.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.